Hey, friend, how are you? Thank you for getting on here. I'm going to give you a little nugget right now when it comes to negotiating, because I have been involved in a lot of negotiations where I'm the buyer. I've been involved in a lot of negotiations where I'm the seller, and I'm going to tell you one thing that you need to be aware of when you start a negotiation. A lot of times buyers do this when they're buying a home. What they do is, let's say the home is listed at $200,000. What they do, they're not doing it in this type of market, but historically they'll do it where they're wanting to come in at a price considerably lower. So really what they're doing is they're over negotiating for themselves by coming off the price as much as possible. A lot of times in life, we over-negotiate ourselves. We're asking for too much initially. So what happens whenever you negotiate too much right off the get-go? The other person involved becomes emotional. They no longer even want to negotiate with you. So be aware. Negotiations is never, ever, ever, ever about asking for too much. It's asking for enough to get interest. So if you're just so far out of the realistic possibility of it being resolved, it's not like you can offer something just crazy and then meet in that place you're going to initially meet at. If you somehow make an absurd negotiation from your part, from your perspective, the other person involved, they'll either just say no to it. It's so ridiculous, they say no. You've got to do something to sell them to get involved into the negotiations. I've experienced something very recently in my life where I went through this process and they told me something that was so ridiculous. What it did is it changed my mind to the extreme. I no longer even wanted to deal with them. I was just completely shut off by them. So if it were different, if what they offered me was harder to say no to, we probably could have negotiated something that was more of a win for them and more of something that I would accept for myself. So remember this, weatherman, remember this. Do not initially start out over negotiating too much, because what you end up doing is you push the people away. You can't negotiate unless both people want the same thing. There's no negotiation. If you're negotiating with somebody that doesn't even want what you want, how can you win that negotiation? So hey, just my little tip today on negotiating.